This is 5-7 part 2. We're starting to get into some pretty fun algebra stuff here as we work through different forms of equations. So here it says write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line with slope 3 that contains -1, 4. So in part 1 we learned how to write an equation in point-slope form with the slope and a point, but we didn't learn how to take that equation and put it into slope-intercept form. So that's what we're going to work on today. So we start out with where we left off in part 1. We write the equation in point-slope form. Point-slope form again is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So all I have to do is plug the slope in for m and then the point x1 y1 in for x1 and y1. So I'd have y minus 4 equals 3 times x minus -1, which would be x plus 1. So that's my first step, is to put it in point-slope form. And then what I have to do is solve for y. So if I look at my equation, I'll just rewrite it down here so I have a little more room to show my work. The first thing I want to do is distribute. So I'm going to take the 3 and I'm going to distribute it through the parentheses. So that gives me y minus 4 equals 3x plus 3. And then the second thing I have to do is I'll either be adding or subtracting whatever numbers with y. So since it's minus 4 here, I'm going to have to add 4 to both sides. Now since the 4 doesn't have an x with it, I can't add it to the term with the x, so I just add it to the other term. And I end up with y equals 3x plus 7. So now I've converted from point-slope form to slope-intercept form, which would be a very useful skill for us to have as we continue to work with slope and linear functions. Let's look at another example of this same thing. So once again, the very first thing I have to do is put it into point-slope form. So that would be y minus 1 equals my slope times x minus -3, which would be plus 3. Okay, and then next I distribute. So I have y minus 1 equals 1/3 x plus 1. And then I have to add the 1 from the other side in order to get y by itself. So I get 1/3 x plus 2. Okay, so that's how I go from having a point and a slope to slope-intercept form. Now to make it even a little more fun, the next type of problem you'll see looks like this. It says write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line through the 2 points. So here it doesn't tell us the slope, so we can't go straight to point-slope form. So the first thing we have to do is find the slope. Now remember, to find the slope, the equation is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We learned that in the first part of chapter 5. So x1 y1, x2 y2. So my slope here is going to be 1 minus -3 and 4 minus 2. So 1 minus -3 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. So that gives me a slope of 2. So then the next thing I do is I take the slope that I just found and I take one of the points that I'm given. It doesn't matter which one I choose. I'm going to choose 4, 1. And I put it into point-slope form. So that would give me y minus 1 equals 2 times x minus 4. Okay, and now we're back to where we were with the previous examples. I now have to convert it into slope-intercept form. So to do that, first thing I have to do is to distribute. So then I have y minus 1 equals 2x minus 8. And then I add the 1 to both sides. So I would get y equals 2x, negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. So y equals 2x minus 7. Let's look at another one of that same type. Alright, so first thing I gotta do, find the slope. So let's label these again. So I got 10 minus negative 2 over 3 minus 1. So that's 10 plus 2, which is 12 over 2, which is 6. So my slope is 6. So then I'm going to take my slope and a point. So I have y minus 10 equals my slope times x minus 3. So then I have to distribute. So I got y minus 10 equals 6x minus 18. And then I have to add 10. So I come up with y equals 6x minus 8. Okay? So that's how I do it when I'm given 2 points. I find the slope, put it in point-slope form, and then convert to slope-intercept form. Then the very last thing you'll see is story problems. So the cost to stay in a deck is a linear function of the deck's area. The cost to stay in 100, 250, and 400 square feet are shown in the table. Write an equation in slope-intercept form that represents the function. Then find the cost to stay in a deck whose area is 75 square feet. So, this may look very different, but it's very similar to what we just did. Notice here I have 3 ordered pairs that are all on a line. So all I have to do is pick 2 of the ordered pairs. I'm going to choose this one and this one just to avoid having to deal with decimals. So it's just like the problem I just did. I have 2 points, so the first thing I got to do is find slope. So slope is going to be 525 minus 150 over 400 minus 100. Well, 525 minus 150, if I do my math right, is 375. And 400 minus 100 is 300. I'm thinking I can probably reduce that. So 25 goes into both of those. Goes into 300, let's see, 12 times. 375, 15 times. And then I can take a 3 out, so that would be 5 over 4. So my slope would be 5/4. Then I'm going to choose one. Let's choose this top one and go to point slope form. So y minus 150 equals 5/4 times x minus 100. And then I need to go from point slope form to slope intercept form, so I have to distribute. So we got y minus 150 equals 5/4 x minus, let's see, this is going to be, I can cross reduce. I'm trying to do 5/4 times 100 over 1, so I can reduce. And 5 times 25 is 125. And then I'm going to add the 150. So I get y equals 5 fourths x plus 25. So there's my equation in slope-intercept form. Now it did ask me to do one more thing. It asked to find the cost to stain a deck whose area is 75 square feet. So that's pretty easy. All I have to do then is take 75 and plug it in for x. So then I have to do 5 fourths times 75. I don't know exactly what that is off the top of my head. 5 times 75 here. 375. I gotta divide that by 4. Looks like it's 93.75 plus 25. So I get 118.75. So if I had a deck with an area of 75 square feet, I would get charged $118.75 by this particular company to stain my deck. Okay? So that's how we conquer the story problems. And that's it for 5-7. We'll see you tomorrow.